Hello, everyone, and welcome to New Dice Please podcast. A couple of quick announcements before this episode gets started. Number one, we are going to be at Cake or Death 2 down in Yeovil on the 17th of May. We're going to be playing in that tournament, myself, Scott, and Mr. Tom Hovell. So if you see us there, you'll probably see our hats or hoodies or t-shirts or whatever we're wearing on that particular day. Come and say hello. If you play us, we're going to have some dice to give out. So we're looking forward to seeing everyone there. Please say hi if you see us. Secondly, wanted to make you aware that the Carrot Crunch tournament in Kesgrave still has some spaces. Have a look on Talk Fantasy Football for more details on that tournament. It's going to be a great 2-day tournament in Suffolk. It's going to be a really good event. Dave, who was with us last week, has put a lot of time into this one, and it's going to be great fun. So please get yourself signed up to that. And thirdly, this week's episode I wasn't able to attend the recording of, which means, of course, we have some odd audio issues that we then needed to sort out afterwards. So every now and again during this episode, you might randomly hear my voice when you were expecting to hear the lads. They did a great job this week. Really entertaining listen. Unfortunate that we had a couple of audio issues, so just keep an eye out. You'll hear me cropping up every now and again. I'll leave you to it. Enjoy the episode.
You're a tier 1 coward now as well, then, Tom.
Yeah. I thought I'd have a go at it, and it's surprisingly easy.
It's surprisingly easy. Sorry, I feel like we need to clarify. Surprisingly easily when you play dwarfs.
Yeah, just 3-0. It's like playing rats or any tier 1 team.
So you said before anyone can win 4-0 with rats. Are you saying now anyone can win 3-0 with dwarves?
I proved it. Yep.
Well, there are two ways of thinking about this. Firstly, it's incredibly impressive that you did win 3-0 with dwarfs. But also, no, you're right. If you can do it, maybe anyone can.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you at your wit's end with Bloodbowl? Do you need something in your life just to bring you back from the abyss? Try dwarves.
I'm like one of those the Blood Bowl equivalent of one of those weight loss people who's just holding out their trousers. I'm just holding a dwarf in front of you. Go, if I can do it, you can do it.
You're like Jerry from the Subway advert.
This was me before I touched the dwarf. Now look at me.
Oh no!
Sorry.
Listen. The ethics committee are not here this week.
Yeah,
we do need to give Chris something to be able to actually put out there.
We need to get something which is broadcastable and fulfills Chris's dream of his Sony Podcast Award. So on that premise, let's play the intro. Hello, everybody. Welcome to New Dice Please, this week's bite-sized podcast brought to you by the people at Bloodbowl Live. I am Scott. No, I am not Chris. You may notice his absence through a lack of interesting monotone rhythms that come across tonight. Alternatively, you are still welcome and joined by the usual witterings, rhetorics, and just general dribblings, all associated with the wonderful game and community we all love, Bloodbowl. So with us tonight, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Tom Hovell. Good evening, Tom.
Good evening.
Tom, who's your favourite comedian?
Oh,
yeah, that caught you out. Now you know what it's like to be first. Yeah.
Oh, we've given him the power, Tom. We shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, I know the power. Russell Howard.
Okay, Russell Howard likes a tight t-shirt. Good evening, Mr. Feeks as well, Mr. Tom Feeks.
Good evening.
Tom Feeks, who's your favourite comedian?
I feel like I answer this pretty much every single one of these questions. It varies on my mood, and I think it probably tells you a lot about what my mood does a lot of the time. Chris Ramsey at the moment. I was listening to his podcast earlier on today.
Very good, very good. I'm going to be a bit chipper this evening. I'm going to say my favourite comedian at the moment I like listening to is Troy Hawke. I think he brings a bit of sunshine and smile and happiness to everybody. And I can see Tom's face just going absolutely blank there. Do you not know him?
No.
Go have a look after this. Now, there may or may not be someone who sounds like Phil Coe in the background doing production values tonight. If he is there, if he wants to add in his favourite comedian,
How kind of you to think of me. I'm going to say Dylan Moran.
Chris, you can edit that in as you see fit. So, what have we got for you on this episode? You've just got the triumvirate of Blood Bowl tonight. The Three Musketeers, our D'Artagnan has gone a wandering, but we are here to bring you our interesting takes on 11s versus 7s versus Gutter Bowl versus Dungeon Bowl and the other plethora of Blood Bowl variations that there are out there. What do we like? What don't we like? What would we transfer from one mechanic and one system to the other to make it that little bit extra, give it that little bit of je ne sais quoi. So let's go to Mr. Feeks. Mr. Feeks, what would you change to start with across games? Where would you have some sort of mashup hybrid mix in the Feeks household?
Oh, so I start off with I've never played Dungeon Bowl. So I can't comment on that. It's one that's still on my list and it's never got around to doing it. I love the chaos of Gutter Bowl. I think it's absolutely hilarious. I'd like to bring Desperate Measures across all of them because I don't see why they're not. So to give a little bit of background, this topic came up when I was in Suffolk a few weeks ago and we all met up and had a few games. And we did a few games of 7s and I took a Desperate Measure and I think you did as well, Tom. I think you had it as well. And I ended up with, I think I had 3 games, 1 which was a bit useless and 2 that are actually brilliant. And you know what? Just bring that in the whole lot. I don't see why not. You're not guaranteed anything. What are they? 50k?
Yeah, they're 50k, and they've got some quite good ones in there, and they're quite balanced, aren't they?
Mm.
So, but
Do you think 50k is too cheap for 11s, Mr. Feeks? Some of them for an 11s. If we look at there's a particular Desperate Measures about passing to guarantee a gimme in terms of a completed pass. That's incredibly powerful if you want to do some one-turn shenanigans. And I'm not just talking about Skaven here. Most teams for a one-turner or 2-turn, but just to move like at least half the length of the pitch, that's incredibly powerful. So is 50k too cheap?
It is maybe too cheap, but I mean, you look at the teams that will use that, they're mostly the stunty teams that are going to want to do that for the one-turn touchdown. The passing one's great for quite a few teams, but if we're thinking about it just for those, are they going to choose that over a bribe anyway? What's the value there? Is the value of a bribe versus the potential of getting that? It's only a 1 in 8 chance of getting it as well. I'd say probably keep it the same because, like, looking at goblins, you think, well, if I've got the choice of 50k for a bribe or a Desperate Measure, I'm probably going to take the bribe.
Yeah, because more and more now, you can't really take your 2 bombers because they're now mega stars if you're going tournament style thing. So they're kind of out of the picture. And then the other thing you've really got is a keg, isn't it? This just adds a little bit more excitement to it. Because my personal favourite out of all of the kind of Desperate Measures is Grudge Match, which is where you, for the duration of a team's turn, your team can commit any number of fouls, which I just think is hilarious.
God, yeah.
So would you let's go back then, would you put a cap in terms of like the number of Desperate Measures a team could have? So for example, if you think about some, you have a very, very like Gobbo team, it's going to be an infinite number. So if it's not going to be an infinite number, how many should it be, Mr. Feeks?
I'd just go 0 to 1.
Just one.
I'd say 1 max because they can be incredibly powerful. If you get them on the wrong team, they're useless. But if you get them on the right team, they're incredibly powerful. And if you have a few of them, and I'm thinking, a Snotling team which have already got sort of 600 or 700k worth of inducements, if they suddenly turn around with 4 of them, they've already won, pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's too much. That would probably be where I put the cap on it.
And Mr. Hobble, do you agree 50k? Is that just about right in your book? Maybe a bit too cheap, or are you happy with 1 just in terms of having that cap without turning a game of 11s into a complete farce?
I think 1 is good, 50k is good as well. I think that's the decent amount. I wouldn't say it's good for, say, a league, but for like a tournament or something, that'd be quite good fun just to add it in for a bit of difference. Because I know a number of tournaments I've been to have it where you get like a star player, or you get a special envelope of bribes or something like that. So this just adds another dimension to that kind of thing. So instead of doing that, you'd have like a desperate measure. I'd definitely go with that.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you mentioned about 50k for the keg. Actually, is something I hadn't really thought of, but this isn't always going to be possible at tournaments as well. It's even more restrictive. You think about it, if you've got 50k of inducements, you will pretty much automatically go keg, or maybe a mascot and a cheerleader, or if you can get Bomber or Cindy, but you're not going to get them at a load of tournaments anyway. It's one thing that does bug me with the game as a whole is the low value inducements. There's just nothing really there except for some teams. So shoving them in there just gives an extra option. And also, I definitely wouldn't make them cheaper than 50k. Though.
And also, the majority of the desperate measures only really lasts for 1 turn anyway. So that, yeah, it's a one-off thing, isn't it? It's almost like a poor man's wizard sort of thing.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, can you just pause it there, Tom? We'll come on to you shortly. Fixie, are you drinking wine out of a straw?
I was genuinely questioning. My partner poured me a glass of gin beforehand and put a straw in it.
You are
sit here and do it even more elegantly now that you said it.
Swirl
it.
You are really painting the picture for the Nottingham Tourist Board tonight, aren't you? Sophisticated by the Trent. Son out. Gin through a straw. Is it that you've had a bad day and you want to forget about it? Anyway, no. Chris can cut this bit out anyway.
No, we had some gin because it's been nice and sunny.
Desperate measures, going back to our topic, desperate measures I think they're really good. I think they do give the sevens, they sort of cross that bridge, and they're that sort of transient between Gutter Bowl, Dungeon Bowl, and that complete insanity into a bit more sensible, or not sensible. They're a bit more of a transitional step towards the game of 11s, the full game. My question, if you had something at 50k, okay, would you take it? If you had the inducement money, yes. Would you leave it as just an inducement, or would you allow teams to sort of spend an extra, if they had 50k in their treasury, to buy it as, in petty cash? So obviously you're giving away, in effect, another desperate measure to the opposition, or you're giving the opposition the opportunity to have a desperate. Would you allow it for both teams, so 1 out of petty cash, or would you just allow it as an inducement?
Yeah, I'd allow it. I'd allow you to do that because then it would fit alongside the rest of the inducements anyway. If you wanted to overdog it, then you can do. There are very few circumstances where you'd want to do that, to give them the extra 50k. Anyway, I mean, I know some people that would do. But yeah, I'd leave it in just because I think it would get too complicated if we start excluding some with the petty cash thing. There's already some contention around using petty cash, particularly with the tier 3 teams anyway. So
yeah, we've had that conversation before in terms of the arms race and the old power creep that comes along with that as well. Yeah. Where do you two gentlemen stand? Personally, by the way, I'm more than happy to bring any more insanity, craziness, and stupidity and entertainment value into 11s. So I'm sold anyway. Where do you two gentlemen stand on the fact of the special play cards? Have you ever seen them? Have you used them? Have you ever heard about them? Are they an urban myth that you may have heard the gutterins under the sewer talking about as well? Mr. Hovell, special play cards.
I have heard of them, but I've never seen them in the real world, in the real life. I think they're almost along the same lines as all these wonderful pitch rules and different kind of Blood Bowl ball rules and stuff like that. They look really fascinating, really interesting, but never ever have I seen or used them. Just the same as all the others on that side of things.
Tom?
For me, they are a myth of somewhere in the dark past of Blood Bowl, there is a murky story, a legend of the tale of someone who has written down these special play cards. I've never seen them used. I know of them. I know I usually say about wanting more craziness in the game. I'd happily give them a shot, but even just looking through a quick list of them, there's so many of them.
That's the crazy thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just sent it, and this was something I was going to actually mention. Where, and in fact, it was in regards to Dungeon Bowl. That there's a number of things I really liked about Dungeon Bowl, but the thing that got me, and I've only ever played one game, and it was against Chris, was that there are so many different things you've got to remember. So in Dungeon Bowl, for example, you've got teleporters, which I think are fantastic. It's just madness with these teleporters. But in addition to that, you've got to think about your team, and your team is not a standard Blood Bowl team. So they're a college. So they're actually a mismatch of different teams. So on my team, I had ghouls, mummies, vampires all together. And thralls, obviously, and Chris had College of Light, which I had elves, lizard men, and something else, I can't remember. But yeah, so it's all so you've got to then start to remember, what does this player do? How does this player work where you're not used to it? But in addition to that, you've got rooms, and the different rooms have different powers within them as well. And that's something that I find when we talk about all these things, is too many rules starts to slow down a game. And I think whereas we were talking about Desperate Measures and stuff was really good, and because it's just one list, 8 things, roll a dice, look at the table. These special playing cards, as you've mentioned there, Scott, there's hundreds of them. and they're all just, you've got to basically read through them all, and then you've got to question them. And as we know, there's FAQs for standard rules. I hate to think what the FAQs for these are.
So, do you think then that the special play cards, do you think they are more of a Friday night in the pub over a beer, two people come up with enough rules to say, what else could we put in the game, have a full list, let's take and GW the next morning over an Alka-Seltzer thinks, actually, we can make some money out of this, let's print them all. And to your point, Pixie, I've never seen them either. I know one person who has the cards, and they're banned in our league. They're not in there. They're not in tournaments. So,
sorry, the person or the cards? What's happened?
A person has the cards. Sorry, I should.
The cards have been banned, not the person.
Well, you never know these days. But by the time this goes to air, yeah. So we should wait and see.
Wasn't sure what to fill this gap with, so I thought I'd read you this review of the 2011 Adam Sandler film Jack and Jill. This is by far one of the movies ever made. Jack and Jill is absolutely a film, and the fact that it did not win any Oscars is true. If I had to rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, I most certainly would. If you're looking for a movie to watch, this is one of them. I would even go as far as saying this is one of the films of 2011. Well, that's a lovely review. Anyway, Tom, what do you think of it?
Ooh.
So it's literally knockout, because that was going to be my take. Because just while you think about yours, and Tom, I was having a friendly game of Blood Bowl, and it was Skaven on Skaven action about 3 weeks ago. And the gentleman who was waiting for me to play, he had just finished 2 games of Dungeon Bowl because they were over that quick. And I thought, well, wouldn't that be an interesting concept to have 11s or 7s, 1 score wins? Obviously, you've got to think about balancing it in terms of pros and cons. But what's your initial thoughts on that, Mr. Hovell?
Yeah, that's got quite a fun little dimension to it. You could see if you could do it in the quickest turns, and you get bonus points for how many turns are left. You can see if you try and do it. So you say, okay, you've got 16 turns, but if you do it on your first turn, you get an extra 15 points. That kind of thing, and see who gets the highest score. But the problem is that everyone would then just go for kind of almost guaranteed teams.
Overnight, you've changed the meta basically to Skaven and Elves or Underworld, haven't you? Anything with anything 8 or up on your movement.
Now this would potentially go quite nicely where to even the field out a bit, because I like teleporters, and I wonder how teleporters would work in a game of 11s with your one turn wins the game. And so the interesting thing with teleporters in Dungeon Bowl was that you get, and I think it's three or four, three teleporters each, because it's on a D6. You roll a D6, so you get three teleporters each, and you roll to see who puts the first one down, and then you take it in turns to put your teleporters down. Okay, you can't put them in the room or within, I think, 3 squares of the end field. So the way it works is you put a player on one of the teleporters. All the teleporters are numbered 1 to 6. You go and put your player on a teleporter or get pushed into a teleporter. You then roll a dice, and then you get sent to that teleporter. Okay, if you roll the number that you're on, so say you're on, for me, go on to teleport 1. I roll a 1. You disappear. You're out for the game. So you're gone. Okay. Which is how Chris unfortunately lost a number of his skinks and elves. So using that in combination with your 1-turn touchdown, you could get in at least 20 games a night.
I like that. I have never played Dungeon Bowl before, very much like Mr. Feeks. That's coincidence only, by the way, not out of an alignment or a need. So you'd have them on the pitch, on a normal pitch. You'd obviously, do you scatter them? Do you
place
them?
Yeah. So you could say, right, okay, I'm going to put a teleporter on the touchline, for example. I'm going to put one over here, and what you could almost do is say, right, I will place. I've got 3 little tokens, and I'll place that in, your ends, near your end zone, within 4 squares of your end zone. Put one over there somewhere, maybe on the sideline, maybe in the middle, and then the other person would then put theirs down somewhere on the pitch. And it's just that extra kind of thing that you can get the ball or get someone in there and they hit that and go miles away, or you get pushed into it and go miles away. So it'd be an interesting concept to see how they would work in Blood Bowl on a Blood Bowl pitch.
I have to say, the idea and the randomness of which teleporter you will go to, and the inherent danger of sort of disappearing into the ether, really appeals to my sense of insanity and stupidity in general, all-round mayhem.
Yeah.
Mr. Feeks, what do you think? I can see you smiling, so I'm assuming it's the gin, or you're agreeing here.
It can be both things.
Okay,
it's fine.
we are an all-encompassing church.
Yeah. I like it. I don't know. I don't know how well it would translate to 11s. Is the only thing. Would you be considering it an inducement or just something that everyone has at the start of it?
Someone it's just there on the pitch, because equally, let's be honest here, it can be a hindrance as well as a help, because it's effectively like the trapdoor. You don't want to go on it. So the other thing is that if you knock someone down and they get pushed into the teleport, they're obviously prone. They stay, and so for example, I push someone into teleport 1. They roll a 3, so they go to teleport 3. They do not move off that teleporter. They just sit there prone. Okay, so then what happens is that if someone then gets pushed into another teleporter and ends up on teleport 3, the character that's on 3 then has to roll and gets moved somewhere else to another teleporter. So you can get a chain reaction here. And when I was playing Chris, we had one where 5 people were moved randomly all over the place. So you had people like on the other side of the dungeon, nowhere near all their players, just surrounded by the opposition's players.
I think it would work really well if you're doing it as a tournament. As a special rules of tournament, I think that would work fantastically well. I feel like over a league, it's going to get tiresome pretty quick. However, next time I'm in Suffolk, I am absolutely up for giving that a shot because it does sound like a lot of fun.
Fully agree. I think we've had a couple of good, interesting points there. I think desperate measures as an inducement would be a lot more fun. And for me, I think that would replace the special play cards and make things a lot more simpler. You're using something that is there as a mechanic as part of the Blood Bowl franchise and world. So it's not as if you're coming out with something else that people feel they've got an obligation to buy. I think having the teleporters sounds, as you say, Mr. Feeks, in the right environment, which would be a tournament rather than unless you do want it for a league, unless it's absolutely going to blow your mind. But I think that would be a lot of fun as well. I just want to drag us back for the third one because I do apologise. We sort of got sidetracked by Mr. Hovell's excitement and enthusiasm.
Stop this pod getting sidetracked.
You'd never think, would you?
No.
But anyway,
people get concerned at the level of professionalism you're trying to bring in.
I'm trying to hold us from going down the professional route and the semi decent route. I really am.
Yeah, drag us back.
What was your opinion though for a one score games in 11s or 7s?
I think that's good. I do. I think that's a really positive one, especially again. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, all of these are kind of all very much tournament based. Because again, what I've noticed playing tournaments is that you have really quick games, but then you also have really long games, and they tend to the whole tournament is reliant on people going at the right pace. So you could get it quite quick. However, as I say, there is a danger that people just meta it and just always take Skaven or always take Wood Elves or whatever.
What are you saying, Tom?
I've only just gone dwarves.
I think it's a really interesting concept. Again, probably would fit better as a tournament than a league. But what would you think about a tournament where you're not allowed to take any piece that's higher than movement 7 to make that one turn a challenge? Because obviously, with Skaven one turn, I mean, it's to my great shame as a Skaven coach, I have never managed to one turn on tabletop, but that's because the dice have said no rather than anything else. The theory is it's relatively simple. But if you take it out, that's just not really a possibility.
It is, but every good coach, when you do, you might not have had a POW all match. And then if you're going for a 1-turn touchdown, you roll 2 dice in your first block. You know what you're going to get, a double POW.
Of course it's going to be. When it's either double POW or double skull.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think Nuffle looks at it and says, no, you'd appreciate a double POW more because you've missed it all for the previous 15 turns. And now, when you don't need it, here you go.
Yeah.
So, yes. But I agree. I think sorry, Tom.
No. Equally, I suppose you could say, well, let's not go with them and let's go with throw teammate teams.
Yeah.
Quite fun.
So I think this is really showing that within the right tournament, obviously, if it's something like the recent NAF Championship, I can't think some of our previous guests might be too enamored, rather. If suddenly we introduce a one-score game and teleporters all over the place as well, the NAF might upset people, which might be very entertaining. You never know. So we have, I won't say we've survived, but we've got 3 very interesting facts there. So we've got a one-score game. We've got teleporters as well. And we've talked about the introduction of desperate measures. Pick one, which would be your top favorite one, which you would like to see, say, introduced into into which forum? Because we've talked about moving everything to 11s. Is there anything in 11s that you'd like to see into Dungeon Bowl or 7s or Gutter Bowl?
Ooh.
I don't think there really is, because 11s is kind of not the basic version, because let's face it, this game is not basic. It's kind of the base level, and then the rest are additions on top of it. Is there anything you can't? It's all the same No, there's more inducements in 7s than there are in 11s, aren't there? But you don't lose any.
Yeah, I think you've got in 11s you've got star players which you don't necessarily have in the other three. So that may be something that'd be quite good to have in the others, star players. So you kind of say, well, okay, on a sevens pitch you're allowed 1 star player each, and you're guaranteed that star player or something like that. And it has to be of your race kind of thing. So if it's an elf, they have to have an elf, and if it's a human, they have to have a human kind of thing.
Elves are just so expensive they couldn't afford anything, even with basically just 7 players.
1 star player on a sevens pitch.
No, that would it. You just have Jordal Fresh Breeze, and that's it. Get nothing else.
Yeah, would you include? Could you do that? Include it in the TV, or would it be you have your 600k TV and then your star player on top?
Well, with elves, if you take a basic 7 lineman, I mean, if you take all of the elves, isn't it? Except Pro, because they're all 70k. Dark elves are, woodies are. I think. I want to say, what high elves are they? 60 or 70k? But to that point, anyway, you're going to be talking 420k.
Yeah, so they're 70.
Yeah, okay. So you're talking 490. So you got 110k. You could have at the moment the new stabby glimmer shard sprite. I can't remember the name of the new stabby little star player they've got as well. I'm sure someone will be shouting at the very thought of that on the podcast. So yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting one. Star players, are they price prohibitive or? I suppose you could take Morg if you should have Morg and Snotlings.
Well, that's just what Snotlings do anyway. That's not new.
Everyone just gets Morg. There you go.
Oh God, no. Just some Morg on Morg action. This doesn't answer your question, Scott, at all, because it's again one going. No, it does. But again, one going the other way. The shorter halves in 7s are the 6 turns going over to 11s.
That's a very good conversation.
I'm not anti the 8 turns. I quite enjoy the 8 turns, but we've all had those matches where you're there for 3 hours and towards the end you're like, I need to go home.
Or you're there after turn 2 thinking the end can't come quick enough because I don't have any players left on the pitch.
So they've all fallen over. All right, well, this is your half. Go for it.
Enjoy. Live your dream. Okay, so just going back, so it sounds like majority of the cross-pollination would be from the hybrid games or the 7s, the Gutter Bowl and the Dungeon World environment up into 11s, as opposed to the vice versa. Star players is another interesting thinking line that we need to explore another day. But just going back to our 3, Mr. Feeks, I'm going to put you on the spot. Which one, if you had to introduce it, would you do? The Desperate Measures, the 1-score game, or as they're now going to be officially called, trademarked and put on a t-shirt, Tom's Teleporters?
Oh, I'd love to see the teleporters. I don't think they'd work. I don't think they'd work for the whole community. I don't think they'd work. I'd love to see them, though. I really want to see if they work.
I think for all of this, it doesn't. There are different people who like to play the game. There's clearly a lot of very strategic kind of people who know they've got set plays that they know they're going to do and all that kind of stuff. And having teleporters on the pitch just ends up being just random craziness.
You're not suggesting that any of the New Dice Please podcast, we happen to be non-strategic people there, Tom, are you?
Of course not.
I can roll a dice, I can do it freehand and in a cup now. I'm multitasking. Look at me.
Hey, that's progress.
I want to see what's coming next on the CV.
Moving on to Dice Towers next.
Let's not get too carried away. There's only I'm still learning that multitasking myth that people talk about. So going back, come on, Mr. Feeks, on which one? Desperate Measures, 1-score or teleporters? Teleporters, yes.
Teleporters, yes.
Teleporters. Mr. Tom Hovel, Mr. Feeks has gone with the Tom's Teleporters. Actually, it's appropriate for both, I suppose.
Yeah. I can claim it. There you go. Can I copyright it now? Is this?
Yeah.
Sorry, Tom. I've just. I'll
Tom,
steal your idea.
Open bracket, Feeks, close brackets, teleporters. And don't ask me where the apostrophe is going. Tom Hovel.
I'll go with Tom Feeks' teleporters then.
You're going for teleporters. Okay. I'm just going to say, because I've never used teleporters, I'd like to use them, see what insanity they do. But I like the idea of desperate measures. I do like the idea of one score game, and I know we've talked about this topic. I was thinking the other day, how do you get to a successful end of a game in a knockout environment that is not a draw and does not take a further 8 turns? So that whole penalty shootout or golden score, or how do we do that? But I don't think that's for this particular episode as well. So on that note, that brings us to the end of this week's podcast. If you do want any more further things that you want to know about New Dice, please, if you want to get in touch with us, share anything and everything that you feel appropriate to share. Mr. Tom Hovell, where can people get hold of us?
Yep, so they can email us at newdiceplease@gmail.com. They can follow us on socials. So we are on Instagram and Blue Sky under New Dice Please. And also you can see us as well as hear us on YouTube under Bloodbowl Live and New Dice Please.
Excellent. Thank you, Tom. And to Mr. Feeks. Mr. Feeks, if there's anything specific people want to share with us, what do you recommend they share with us?
Please share any Blood Bowl confessions you have. We have got an episode coming up where we discuss a few of them, and we'd love to hear what you guys and girls want to confess to in the Blood Bowl table. Keep it a little bit PC. If they go too far, we may not read them out. I still want to hear them, but we may not read them out.
Very true indeed. So if you want to indulge, look upon us as maybe the free Blood Bowl therapy that you never knew you needed in your life. On that note, once again, a big thank you to the two Toms, to Mr. Tom Hovell. Thank you, Tom. To Mr. Tom Feeks. Thank you, Mr. Feeks. This has been New Dice Please. I've been Scott. Chris has been absent in his radiant beauty, as always, and we'll see you next time. Does someone want to wave their arm like Chris does? There you go.
There we go. Oh, that feels right.
Wonderful.